Hey everybody, welcome back to your Donna Drones podcast. I'm Dawn Zoldi, your host and the CEO of P3 Tech Consulting. By the way, it's February 1st, which also happens to be my birthday, so happy birthday to me. And we are kicking off an incredible new month dedicated to the theme of protectors and defenders, sponsored by Draganfly, and who better to kick this month off than with Chell. Cam is the CEO and president of Draganfly, and Cam is a great friend to this show, by the way. Cam kicked off our year last year when we were with Drone Life and broke all kinds of records. So Cam, we'll see what happens this time, but great to have you back.
It's always an honor to be on the show, and great theme for the month. Thank you.
Well, you know, most people may not realize how much you've been doing in this protecting and defending space, Cam, whether we're talking about militaries at home and overseas or public safety and law enforcement operations through your hardware and software solutions. So there's a lot to catch up on, especially, I mean, I can barely keep up, Cam, with what you've been doing since last year. So it's going to be a fun journey to walk through all that. So let's go ahead and let's start with some of the products that you've recently released, because it was almost like bam, bam, bam towards the end of this last year, 2022, where you have really positioned yourself in Draganfly to provide these solutions to our protectors and defenders. So let's first talk about the Commander 3XL. What a cool drone. And I know, here we go. We have a cool picture. So go ahead, tell us about it.
Yeah, so the Commander 3XL is, we've really tried to position it as the Swiss Army knife of drones. And, amongst, if not the most efficient drones in the market, for that light to medium lift. So, there's a lot of drones in the market that, kind of fit that small size and can be used at a very tactical level and for surveillance and reconnaissance. But, where there tended to be a void in the market that our customers were telling us about was kind of like a replacement for like the DJI M600, right? Which, just kind of, was taken out of the market. And so this fits into that, but really also what it does is it's a workhorse. So it's got an interchangeable payload. It's got 17 different payloads that fit onto it. It's got the same rails that all the former DJI stuff would fit on. So it's got an industry standard way to take all of those different payloads and utilize them very quickly. So this is a 24-pound drone with a 26-pound additional payload. It keeps it under the 55-pound weight limit, requirements for additional permitting and certification and those types of things. And it's got a 55-minute flight time. It also has a whole host of software that we can import and do a bunch of different things with it. So it's really very, very quick. The back orders are significant, and it's really we think will become a workhorse and somewhat of a standard within the industry. So we're really excited about it. But again, all driven by customer demand, whether it's commercial or, certainly on the military side.
So it's a really interesting fuselage, rectangular shape you've created there. What's the kind of the purpose behind that design specifically?
Yeah, so it's a couple of fold. First of all, it is all about efficiency. We weren't trying to build the sexiest drone with the coolest curves or anything like that. Our customers were telling us they just wanted something incredibly efficient. And so we wanted to get the maximum capabilities and still stay under that 55-pound limit. So that's one side of it. So it's highly efficient, and straight lines, aerodynamics and these things really aren't, at this size and scope aren't all that prevalent. So, those square lines are highly efficient in order to fit payloads on, in order to fit batteries in. It also really suited the rails that we wanted to put on to add the payloads onto it. So that really, from a design standpoint, it wasn't meant to look like the sexiest drone out there. It was meant to be the most efficient drone possible.
Well, I guess a great follow-on question then would be, can you give us a real-world use case where folks have been employing this workhorse, as you call it?
Yeah, so some great examples are drone as a first responder, because it has all of the capabilities and characteristics of the smaller drones, but at the same time, it has the ability to carry the payloads that might be, additional medical kits, or additional optical or additional sensors. One thing that we've seen specifically is the LiDAR. That I think we'll probably talk about here. So the LiDAR system that we can now put out on this, it used to be a LiDAR system that had to fit on a helicopter. And so when you've got that type of efficiency, you've got an immediate market that can take a look at this and go, oh my gosh, okay, this, like, yeah, we're going to buy a drone instead of a helicopter. And so that's a sense of the type of the use cases that we've got going. But we've got fire brigades, using it for chainsaws, for the delivery of supplies. It's just it fits right into that sweet spot where it's not necessarily yet a heavy lift drone, right? Because so you don't have to get your FAA exemptions and stuff, but at the same time, it's not just like an optical drone that's going to go out and give you some visual observation. It's for work.
You alluded to this, but I'm just going to ask it, Cam. You mentioned, kind of Chinese drones and some of the limiting factors with those, some of the bans and policies that have been put in place, at least in the U.S. with relation to those. This drone and your others are quote unquote made in North America.
Yeah, we're a 25, almost 25-year-old company. We're manufactured here in North America, both obviously in the United States, but also up in Canada. We do some manufacturing, and that's on our whole ethos, our whole history has been North American based manufacturing. We're not DJI fans. I don't want to come across that way, but the reality is the people that we have tended to sell to, which is public safety, agencies, agriculture, tends to be very, buy American. Let's trust what we know. We want to be able to understand and work with the people that are building this critical equipment for us. So it long before the government bans, this has been a part of the market that we have been selling into.
Gotcha. And if the Commander 3XL is a workhorse, the Draganfly heavy lift drone is a monster. I mean, I saw this thing. Here's a cool picture of it. I saw this at Commercial UAV, I think is where maybe you unveiled this, and it took up like your whole booth. Just for context, tell us about this one.
Yeah, what's great about this is this thing's 9 feet across, but it literally breaks down into something that you can carry just, not as uninconveniently as a briefcase, just the way it all folds up. There's some really ingenious design and engineering in it. But this is something that's got a 60-pound plus payload capacity. So it's got a flight time of 50 minutes plus. And then with some extended batteries and some work, we can get actually much further than that. So it really has some big application out there in the delivery market. Again, we're definitely looking, military logistics, last mile delivery, in theater delivery. The applications kind of just keep going on and on and on. But again, very kind of public safety focused, very delivery focused. Something that, again, has been demanded by customers. All the design stuff that we have the privilege of working with right now has really been spec'd by customers.
Another friend of this show and of what we do is Don Burkoff from True Weather. And I noticed about this particular drone that is, let's call it hyper weather resistant when it comes to winds and high elevations. Do you want to elaborate on, let's just call it the resilience of this heavy lift drone?
I'm sorry, what was that again?
This is what happens when we're talking US to Canada, right, remotely. So that heavy lift drone, right, is hyper resilient when it comes to weather, things like wind and, so can you kind of elaborate a little bit on that? Because that's significant.
So everything from the design of the propellers, the motors, the engines, the coating, the wiring, it's all ruggedized. So this is a drone that can really be put to the test. You know, some of the people that worked with us on it, again, came from, you know, the forest fighting area. Some of them came from the marine world, where we've got some great customers that we're working with. And so they're pretty harsh environments. But again, when you get into these workhorse environments, you know, resiliency and redundancy and the ability to repair quick and simple and the rest of it really become important factors in what you do. So we're really proud of the feedback that we're getting from the new customers that we're introducing this to. And they're going like, oh, we didn't even think of that. Of course, we've got to have that, you know, or, you know, so that's the type of feedback that we're getting. We're doing a ton of testing, not a ton of testing, excuse me, we're doing a ton of demos, you know, at our Texas facility. And you know, we crank up the heat there. We put it, you know, we put it to the test in terms of wind. You know, up on the Vancouver coast, we really hammered on the rain side. So we're pretty excited about its capabilities and its resiliency.
Now, just by way of comparison, if the Commander 3XL can carry a chainsaw, how many chainsaws could hypothetically the Draganfly heavy lift carry?
Yeah, well, it certainly depends on how big the chainsaw is,
Yeah.
but it can carry multiple chainsaws, or it can carry you know, chainsaws at higher altitudes, further distances. And you know, we kind of kid around about this use case, but this is a very real use case with our firefighting customers and prospects. And it's got, you know, like, you don't have to deploy a helicopter or an ATV that could take hours or maybe not even get into where somebody needs to have some immediate equipment. You know, the heavy lift drone, as well as the Commander 3XL, you know, they come with multiple release mechanisms, whether it's drop, land, or winch. And so again, these were all things that were designed around with customers saying, what if we get into this situation, or what if we get into that situation? And you know, exactly how do we address this? So, you know, I think Draganfly, from a product standpoint, is really finding its niche in that workhorse category. You know, again, we don't, you know, we have some customers that we do some custom work for on some smaller drones and some indoor drones, but really our genre, if you will, is really into, like, you know, industrial and military and heavy commercial type applications.
Now, another thing you can do, obviously, is put pretty heavy and big sensors on the Draganfly heavy lift drone. So tell us a little bit about some of those packages.
Yeah, so as we had alluded to earlier, LiDAR as an example, the LiDAR system, which we designed, and it'll take multiple different types of LiDAR systems, but the LiDAR systems that can go on this heavy lift are now LiDAR systems that before you know, you had to use airplanes or helicopters for. So there's a couple of benefits there. Obviously, cost, access, and you're actually getting the LiDAR closer, you know, to your object and your subject. So even some of the resolution in the point cloud can be increased and improved alongside of the other advantages. But it can carry multiple sensors at the same time. So along with your LiDAR, you may be doing optical, you may be doing environmental sensors, you may be doing a bunch of things. So you're saving mission time and incorporating multiple types of data in this. We're really surprised how many of our customers are looking at not necessarily the payload capacity in terms of weight that it can carry, but they're very interested in its capacity because of its battery life. Like, it's a big drone, it can carry a lot of batteries, so you can put a lot of sensors on there. So even if the sensors aren't that heavy, you get extended time and use out of those sensors. So some of the unintended consequences that we're seeing of this, I think, is really helping, you know, kind of set the tone for what will happen in the industrial space.
Well, and the LiDAR that we just showed is one of your newer products, and it actually has a best-in-class laser scanner. Do you want to tell us a little bit about, like, that particular sensor package and why you guys created that?
Yeah, so we created that for a number of reasons. The same thing that's happened in the drone space in terms of concerns around foreign companies and the manufacture of their product, we see that now happening in the sensor space. And we had very specific requests coming in from a number of customer opportunities about that concern. is it, specifically a Chinese product or a foreign national product that quite frankly, the sensor is more, more important than the drone in terms of collecting data. Now, a lot of North American made sensors in this category are quite expensive. So what we've tried to do is come in with a sensor package. This is a very sophisticated LiDAR, but come in with a sensor package that's priced below, the typical North American space, but, certainly more expensive than, say, a Chinese product. But it has all the added benefits of being manufactured in North America, all the security, all the assurances, all the representations and warranties that we have to make. So this isn't, this isn't a $20,000. This is a $250,000 type sensor system. And the advantage of it, of course, is that you can run it on a drone also, as opposed to a helicopter or an airplane or something like that. So that's again very, very specifically driven by customer requests, and we're seeing great uptake and great interest because of that.
Well, that's awesome. And you mentioned batteries, so I want to talk a little bit about that. You've added a new lithium battery communication technology product or suite to your lineup. So tell us about why you did that, what they are, and kind of how they are improving kind of protector and defender missions.
Yeah. So Steve Jobs said it best, even around the iPhone, in product design of electronics, everything begins and ends with battery life. It is your gating item. It's your limiting factor on absolutely everything that you do. So we're always sourcing and learning and growing around our battery technology. I mean, there's other things that you'd think would be, more sexy to work with. But the battery technology is really what it's all about. So there are some great battery manufacturers out there that we use and we implement with this, but we also do have our own mixtures that we put in certain situations that may be used in certain environments or certain types of missions that help optimize exactly what that drone's doing in that very specific use case. And I think that's, one of the advantages of Draganfly is that we just have that level of experience in terms of working with the customer. At Draganfly, we're all about what advantage do we give our customer. We'd like to think that we've got strategic advantages of why our customers choose us, but our absolute ethos is when you work with Draganfly, how does that give you a strategic advantage? And some of those customized things, like specific batteries and engineering, are some of the reasons that we're able to have some of the customers we have.
Well, clearly, and so I'm looking at my notes here, Cam, because I have something down here about Draganfly intelligence technology and how it relates to communication capabilities and your network. So tell us about that.
So, 5 years from now, Draganfly, if all continues to go well, will certainly be known as a drone company. The reality is, our view is, and vision is, that it will really be a data company. So nothing collects data better than a drone. You've got incredible battery life. You've got, absolutely advantaged position to collect data. So whether it's environmental or optical or LiDAR or hyperspectral or whatever, or a combination of all those things, even vital intelligence, which is our ability for our cameras to read vital signs of subjects on the ground, which again, in the course of, North America, maybe that's not that important. It was during the pandemic. But in the course of search and rescue or humanitarian missions or military missions, when you're looking to understand the vital signs of your own, either survivors or combatants, and understand everything from not just their health condition, but maybe their psychological condition because of elevated heart rates or things like that. That's the type of intelligence that drones can bring to the table. And so ultimately, Draganfly will continue to move downstream in terms of being able to provide the analytics of the data that we collect for our customer. Now, why that is really important to the customer is the customer doesn't honestly really care about the drone. What the customer cares about, whether again it's the military or whether it's our commercial customers or humanitarian customers, they care about the job that the drone does. And more times than not, that really means, what data did we collect? What did we learn from the mission? What decisions can we make from that mission that drone carried out? So we have always had a strong penchant toward data. And we'll continue to do that. And so you'll see more and more products come out from us that are either partnering with the right people or us designing our own sensors. Again, because we want to be able to analyze very specific types of data that our customers are asking for. So a forestry company, they want an inventory count, they want disease analysis, they want water table analysis, they want flood analysis, they want all the, and that's terabytes of data that's delivered at any given time. And so for us, we house that for them. And now in particular in the mining industry, we actually provide analytical tools around that for them. And so we're going to continue to move that direction because that's where our customers are pulling us. Now, the reality is, we'll always do the drone piece because this is the most sensitive information that a company has. This is the information that they make their decisions on, their competitive advantage is garnered around. And so what they don't want is they don't want necessarily in at least at the Fortune 500 or the military level, they don't want Joe and Jake's, flight service, to go out and, collect the data. And then it goes over to somebody else for, somebody else's software and then somebody else's analysis. And then eventually it ends up on their servers. They need a secure data chain. And that's really what we call the Draganfly intelligence.
Okay, wow. Like I said, everybody, so much going on here. And let's bring it very directly to law enforcement and first responders. We've talked about a whole bunch of things and some of these firefighting use cases. What other tools in the toolkit does Draganfly provide to that community in particular? And then we'll talk about the military next.
Sure. So, DFR, drone as first responder, to us is an incredibly exciting market, primarily because there's an immediate ROI for public safety. You put a drone up on a 911 call, I've seen varying stats anywhere from 12 to up to 30% of calls are returned as false alarms. So that stops an ambulance, a police, response and a fire response, from having to go out and be wasted time. And so it's immediate ROI. So we love that use case. There are fantastic players in this market. We don't do, we have, played with, but we don't do because there's such great players in the market, the fleet management around it. So you've got other great organizations that we're building channel partner relationships with, but we're really tailoring our drones to fit in with their software. So again, as we go back to that, I won't mention any names at this point, but with those channel partners that we're working with, we're trying to bring them best-in-class drones and supporting software to their core value of doing DFR. So we do have extensive efforts and work going on in Texas in DFR and in medical delivery. So as I kind of promote all the time, the Draganfly was the first drone that saved a human life, and that sits on permanent display in the Smithsonian. So, we've sold, over 10,000 drones to hundreds of public safety organizations. And so, being able to reapproach them and talk to them about DFR and the advantages, we think is a great market that we can bring significant value to. But, again, whether it's loudspeakers on drones or whether it's DFR or whether it's vital intelligence or whether it's emergency delivery, this is the stuff that really gets our engineers and our salespeople going. Like, this is the stuff that we care about.
Well, it is. And there's so many parallels, I would say, between kind of that public safety use case, if you will, domestically, and what the military needs, overseas on the battlefield. Because all of those things you mentioned, Cam, whether it's being able to find people, search and rescue, or personnel recovery, right? Like, direct parallels between these two. So on the military side of the house, and we're going to talk about Ukraine extensively here in a minute, but just kind of in a general terms, what kind of use cases are all of these different products and services supporting on the military side?
Well, anytime that you can support boots on the ground, right? Which, when you think about, with Air Force's, primary role, which may be information and or it's supporting, where people's lives are most directly in danger, now you can do it without having to have these multi-million-dollar systems, and you can do so many more things. So, as much as 5 years ago, we were working with a well-known military contractor, doing blood delivery on the battlefield scenarios, right? Doing counter drone technologies. In many respects, that's where our vital intelligence technology came out, to be able to read vital signs, right? Who needs triage? Where do you need information? Where do you need equipment or supplies first? Yeah, when we think about just-in-time delivery, well, I can't think of a more important place to have just-in-time delivery, than in an active theater. And so everything that goes with that, the logistics, the surveillance, the reconnaissance, the safety, all of that stuff can now be handled by $20,000 or $25,000 drones, as opposed to multi-million-dollar helicopters that are easy targets.
Absolutely. I mean, when you think, you and I have talked about this before, Cam, so many folks, they lob a product out there, some solution looking for a problem, let's neck it down then, your problem statement, because you were very clear-eyed when you decided to create all of these things, whether it was the Commander XL or Vital Intelligence, so what, generally speaking, are the problems that you were trying to solve in creating all of this technology?
Yeah, well, we're in a very privileged, and we don't take it for granted, situation where, even though we're still a very small company, and lucky to be in an incredibly growing market, we have a history of having hundreds of customers. So we have a trusted relationship where we go with them and they give us the feedback of, hey, this is what we need. And so we're able to create products, for problems that exist today. And what's interesting about that is when you address those problems and you put your drone into theater, you realize the other problems that you're solving at the same time. And that's a real advantage that we have. So, I don't know of other, I'm sure they exist, but I don't know of other North American drone manufacturers who have boots on the ground in a combat theater and in a live zone where we're testing and learning and growing. And it's not just about the technology. It's about how people use the technology. It's about the techniques and the processes that are actually being employed that then you build the technology around. But don't get me wrong, I love being a visionary. I love creating solutions for problems that don't exist. But at the same time, when you've got the privilege of being able to very specifically solve something that's a problem today that other people either can't or aren't willing to solve, I think you've got a winning combination, which is also, why I've just got to give a shout out to our people. Our people, they're not afraid to go get it done for our customer. They really care about the mission that we're on and being able to perform for that customer. Now, again, we're super lucky and in a spot that we're doing things for just causes, whether it's public safety or humanitarian or whatever. So it's easy to get behind and it's easy to attract really great people, whether that's shareholders or whether that's, most importantly, our talent, our employees, or whether it's the great customers we attract. So, again, I kind of beat it up a little bit, maybe too much, but, we solve for what we're asking to be solved. And it's not always in an industry you get to do that. So we're grateful for that opportunity.
Well, and this is, as you alluded to, this is long-standing part of your history. You mentioned in passing, but I want to really foot stomp this. You have a drone in the Smithsonian Institute. And if memory serves, Cam, because you and I talked about this before, this was involved in the very first search and rescue operation in Canada. So tell us a little bit about that story and how that drone wound up in the Smithsonian.
Yeah, so the Federal Police in Canada, called the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, were called out for a missing person who was expected to be, at a particular location at a particular time. Long story short, they were in a single car accident. They'd been missing for 8 or 9 hours in a terrible snowstorm, and they had hit their head and wandered from the vehicle. They had put out search parties. They couldn't find anybody. They could not put up helicopters. So they put up a Draganfly Commander 2 at the time with a thermal camera on it, and found via heat signature the person within about 20 minutes who had hypothermia at that time.
Wow.
And whose life was saved. And it really, for us, it cemented why we do this. And hopefully it's also a good news story about why drones can be and will be so important to our future to take away those dangerous jobs, whether it's roof inspections, right, or whether it's high wire inspections on or windmill inspections, or whether it's delivery of medical equipment in combat zones, or like that's the story that we hope that people understand what drones can do for society.
Well, and that was 2013, if I recall correctly, that kind of original story where the drone wound up in the Smithsonian. But I want to take it back to today, and your products have been saving lives, and you continue to have this emphasis and focus protecting, defending. Tell us about your really interesting partnership with Lufthansa.
So a lot of people don't know, but Lufthansa Industry Solutions is a major player, in particular in the marine industry. And so whether it's cargo or passenger ships, they have numerous industrial solutions, software solutions, and safety solutions that they employ and work with in that industry. They're a big player. So it's interesting to note that the average cruise, this is a stat I have been told many times. I always find it hard to believe. The average cruise ship will have 1 to 3 man overboards per sailor.
What? I was just on my very first cruise with my husband in November, and I could not even imagine that.
Yeah. So whether it's by, alcohol consumption or accident or suicide, which a lot of people apparently book cruises to do this. Anyways, it's a big issue. So, and there's sensors all around the ships, and what do you do? So they're looking for solutions. So what we're specifically working on is a couple of things, and there will be much more. 3 in particular. We're working on man overboard solutions. So to be able to do recovery, accident reconstruction, data collection, even deployment of safety equipment, dinghies or boats or those types of things into the water. The second area is the use of the vital intelligence technology to be able to monitor the health and condition of the population on a boat, because as you know, we've all learned that if something gets started on a boat, an infectious condition of some sort, so they need to be on top of it. And then the third area is using drones for the inspection, safety inspection, and maintenance inspection of the equipment or the ships, whether, again, it be cargo or whether it be passenger.
Well, I think we have a video to play and that explains some of this, Cam. So why don't we go ahead and roll that?
Draganfly is pleased to announce it has partnered with Lufthansa Industry Solutions, a subsidiary of Lufthansa Group, to provide its drone solutions and vital intelligence technology for use into its existing infrastructure. Draganfly's technology will assist Lufthansa Industry Solutions' objective of providing industries, including the maritime industry, with the highest information technology and performance monitoring standards. Draganfly's drone solutions will look to be deployed during marine search and rescue operations and for reconnaissance purposes, adding another layer of safety and security for guests and crew members. Draganfly's search and rescue drone is being optimized for man overboard. These specialized drones are high-endurance, multi-rotor UAVs capable of utilizing Draganfly's optical and infrared imaging solutions during an active emergency. Our drones can be used to thoroughly map certain areas and potentially locate survivors. The reconnaissance drones provided by Draganfly can carry out inspections of cargo and potential hazards on the water. This UAV is a high-endurance VTOL drone that can be deployed in hazardous and inaccessible areas and have dual battery systems, providing extended flight time and software that supports fully and semi-automated missions as well as manual operations. Lufthansa Industry Solutions plans to integrate Draganfly's vital intelligence technology into its artificial intelligence as a service, or its AIaaS platform, a package that offers a quick and easy solution for businesses trying to achieve digital transformation. Draganfly will combine its cutting-edge drone and vital intelligence software with Lufthansa Industry Solutions to create new innovative technologies for marine search and rescue.
That's absolutely incredible. And honestly, I feel like I should be calling this episode Draganfly, what don't they do? Because no, seriously, like when you think about protecting and defending, you mentioned this again in passing, but I want to highlight you're also now involved in counter UAS technology as well.
Yeah, so we've done counter UAS drone to drone for quite some time. So mostly for our military contractor customers, using things like Kevlar nets and airbag explosives to shoot them, and for almost a decade ago we were working on some of that stuff. So we in terms of the electronic jamming and warfare and defense capabilities and that. We have elected to partner with what we think are best in class folks. And the reason that we've elected to partner is, one, there's people that do it better than we do it right now. And there's immediate customer demand. But what's interesting is that our customers and a number of people who are our prospects have come to us and saying, listen, you understand this space. And, we want you to lead, our decision making around what is the best way to defeat a drone. And so, and how, and it's an interesting perspective, but it's quite widespread. So we'll continue. We're honored to be able to do this type of work. I'm going to say that we're good at it. But we have to have these partners that we're partnering with to be the absolute experts at it and to grow the best in breed and best in class solutions for our customers. But it's been very active, in particular in the Ukraine theater, and I hesitate to say more than that right now, but it's a big field, and it's probably, over the next year, at least as big on the military and public safety side. It's probably just as big as the drone industry itself.
Yeah, I was going to say, Cam, it's actually a perfect segue, and somehow we have only 10 minutes left or less, and we've got so much ground to still cover. So we're absolutely now transitioning to talk about the incredible work you've been doing in Ukraine. All of these efforts, and we've all been watching. I think people are calling it the first real drone war, right? Commercial technologies flooding the battlefield, and you have personally visited Ukraine, and your drones are being used for mining and other humanitarian purposes. So let's go ahead and walk us through the mining use case in particular.
Yeah, so using multiple sensors on a drone, let's call it a few years ago. We've been had been working on this at that time. Theoretically, you could find a mine, but there's a lot of techniques and a lot of different sensors. So if it's not a metal mine, if it's a plastic, if it's a ceramic, if it's wood, if it's chemical, all these different things require different types of sensors. So we've gone through extensive testing to sort and determine what that sensor package needs to look like. We have a full facility in Texas with ordnance on it, with unexploded dummy unexploded equipment on it that mimic exactly what we need to do in theater. Some are surround, all the different types, from multiple countries. And so we've been running through these tests. Now, the reality is right now, what's most important is to determine where mines aren't, right? So because it takes an inordinate amount of time to actually do the demining work. It is still basically, highly trained, sometimes not highly enough trained people, walking through fields with sticks. So the data that we provide isn't always just specifically, here's a mine, right? Or here's a mine, or here's it's really more about, okay, here's a trench line. Here's some new forage. Right, as opposed to some of the older forage. Here's some spent ammunition. Here's a burned out something. Here's a path that looked like a lot of people walked along. Like those are the things that then give indication as to where mines might be or where they're not. Because if you can determine where they're not, that's where you will save the most amount of time in actually doing the demining work. It's going to take 20 plus years to demine just Ukraine, and for every day of war that happens there, there's an additional 30 days of demining work that has to happen. And so the personal consequences of the workers and or the population in this area, not to mention the terror and all the rest of it. This is a big area, to build confidence in, a place like Ukraine and to get it rebuilding. Now, the economic impact in particular in Ukraine because of agriculture, like these are incredibly resilient, tough people. I literally, my last trip over there, a fairly young guy, very industrious guy. His family owns a farm implement dealership over there, and they had designed chains that were on the front of a tractor to go and make sure there was no mines, right?
Oh my
and then
gosh.
they had saws and cedars, right, on the back of
Yep.
it. Like it just, and they're like, well, listen, we can't not do that, so.
Wow.
So the demining work over there is there'll be 20 years of work, and it will be some of the most meaningful work, and I think some of the most incredible science around sensors and such will come out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, not to put too fine a point on it, but Cam, you mentioned this UAS AIR, which is Adoption, Innovation, and Research Space Flight Facility, and you're doing some of this testing work in Texas, so that's amazing. And you mentioned this earlier, and we have a really cool picture: humanitarian other relief, blood and medical delivery. So tell us a little bit about this picture.
Yeah, so Revive Soldiers Ukraine, which was a U.S.-based NGO that was doing work in the Ukraine by having clinics and or bringing wounded Ukrainian soldiers to the United States for rehabilitation. At the outbreak of the conflict, got deeply involved in providing humanitarian support, in particular into besieged areas. They had, 30 some ambulances, most of which couldn't move, confiscated, shot, but they couldn't get into, the areas, in particular at the beginning of the conflict. And so they had heard about the work that we were doing in Texas with delivery drones, medical delivery drones. So we have a specialized delivery drone that has a temperature managed box on it. So you can carry things like pharmaceuticals, insulins, EpiPens, organs, blood, that type of stuff. And so they contacted us. We immediately saw the opportunity. We donated 3 drones, tested them in theater over there. They loved them. We loved them. We all learned so much. And so they put in a significant order, which we discounted to the absolute extent we could. And we went over there and learned and helped with this. And so the idea was that, or the idea is, and successfully was that these drones deliver.
So Cam, you were saying the idea is that these drones deliver?
Yeah, sorry. So this temperature sensitive box can carry the things like pharmaceuticals and blood and organs and such. And the biggest demand in particular in Ukraine at that time was getting insulin into these besieged areas.
Oh, wow.
Which is temperature sensitive, right? And yeah, you think of like there's so many things you don't think about that are absolute crises for, tens of thousands of people or thousands and thousands of people at the least. And so there were some other cargoes as well that were critically needed, but insulin was the big one, and this temperature sensitive box at our system satisfied that.
And for everybody out there, fun fact, I did cover a little bit about what Cam and Draganfly were doing in Ukraine in a magazine article for Inside Unmanned Systems magazine called A Good Day for the Blues, highlighted Draganfly and a couple other companies about what they're doing in the Ukraine and the importance of resiliency and cybersecurity in those operations as well as domestically. So we are, Cam, like at the end of our time here. I know you've got a big announcement about some work you're going to be doing now in India because you are global. So I don't know if you want to hit that super quick and then tell us how people can find you and any concluding thoughts.
Yeah, so the India market is likely the largest drone market in the world, and in particular for agriculture, and in more particular for delivery, and specifically particular for defense. So, India has some pretty significant tensions, in particular on the northern borders with China. And so, China being the biggest drone provider in the world, that's not somewhere that they can go anymore. So we've had significant demand, really fueled by the work that we've done in the Ukraine to move into an international market there. So we have signed a strategic partnership to have our drones type certified in India and assembled and manufactured there as well. And so the initial primary markets are defense, agriculture, and then delivery. And we're thrilled. We're absolutely thrilled to have the opportunity to serve that market and work there in that way. And it's not something that we thought we'd be doing for years, but the strategic agreement and group that we're working with is significant, and they're bringing us to a market that's multiple times the size of what we'd ever thought we'd have the opportunity to serve.
That's so exciting. So Cam, I told you, everybody, this was going to be a great episode, and exactly why we had Cam talking about protectors and defenders to kick off this month. Tell us how people can reach you and learn about Draganfly first, and second, any concluding thoughts you want to leave the audience with.
Yeah, sounds good. So you can reach us at draganfly.com. That's DRAGANFLY.com. And that's the best way to get a hold of us. Check out our website. We've got very strong socials, good Facebook groups, whatever you need. But by all means, especially if you're a customer that we can be of service to, we'd love to be able to put our team with you and see if we can be of service.
Well, that's amazing. And everybody out there, also, if you want to meet Cam in person, at a minimum, come to our Law Tech Connect workshop at AUVSI Exponential. Cam is, again, in Draganfly, a gold sponsor for that event, and he will be on the privacy panel. So absolutely join us that. More information to follow. But Cam, any last words before we sign out?
Well, first and foremost, thanks to you and your team. You guys are absolutely fantastic what you do for the industry and how you do it. We're honored to be associated with you. Thanks to our customers in particular for believing in us and letting us work through these really challenging issues and problems. Thanks to our shareholders for your belief and trust. We really are striving to be a number 1, 2, 3 global company in the space, and we think given time we will. And most importantly, thanks to our employees and the commitment that you show to our customers.
All right. Well, thank you, Cam, and everybody else. Thank you for joining us. And that's all she wrote. We are out here.